The last thing that we have to be able to do is we have to be able to figure out how to solve by graphing on our own. So we've graphed parabolas by plugging in points before, but we didn't use those graphs to find solutions. I now know that by looking at a graph I can tell how many solutions there are. Now I know how to find what the solutions are, but now I got to put it all together. I have to be able to graph it and then look for the solutions and then determine from there what my solutions are going to be. Okay? So we have to solve this by graphing. The first point you have to find is the vertex. Remember when we did this, we had to find negative b over 2a. So a is 1, b is negative 1, and c is 4. Okay, all of those, remember, are from the numbers in front of my variables. So negative parentheses b is negative 1 over 2 parentheses a is 1. So a negative 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. So 1/2 is the x-coordinate of my vertex. I then plug it in to find y. This is everything that we did last week. So parentheses 1/2 squared minus 1/2 plus 4. You plug that in to find y. So I got 3.75. So my vertex is at the point 0.5 or 1/2, 3.75. That's not pretty, but it's doable. So you go to your graph and you go over 1/2 and you go up 3.75. So not quite to 4, and you put a point. The key to that is that now we can make a chart and we can plug in other numbers for x, solve for y, and get other points to help us find our solutions. So far I've plugged in 0.5 or 1/2. A good strategy is to plug in something that comes before that, so in this case maybe 0, and then something that comes after that, so maybe 1. So you have to find your vertex first because you need to know where the middle of your graph is, and the vertex is always going to be in the middle. Then you pick a point above that vertex and below that vertex to help you plot those points. So this is exactly what we've been doing. Now instead of 1/2 I would plug in 0. So you go back up and you would change it and plug in 0. And in this case you would get 4. So then I'd plot the point 0, 4, which is up here, above my vertex. Then I plug in 1, and I'd also get 4. 3 points is really all you need to see that this graph is going up from the vertex. And you know by looking at that that has no solution because it's never going to come back down and cross the x-axis. So this answer is no solution. Again, you found the vertex using negative b over 2a that we did last week. Then we picked a point that came before the vertex, in this case 0, and a point that came after the vertex, in this case 1, to plug in. And that is all I needed on my graph to see that it was never going to cross the x-axis, so my final answer is no solution. Here, same idea. We have to find the vertex first. So we got to find A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 6, C is 7. We find the vertex by starting with negative b over 2a. So negative 6 over 2 times 1, which is negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. Again, that's only the x-coordinate of the vertex. Now you have to plug it into your equation with parentheses to find the y. So you plug it in, the number that you just found for x, and then get negative 2. So my vertex, the point in the very middle of my graph, is negative 3, negative 2. So go ahead and plot it. That's left 3, down 2. If you put it in a chart, you want that in the middle because you need some points on either side of your vertex. So what comes before negative 3? Well, negative 4 does, negative 5 does. And what comes after negative 3? Negative 2 and negative 1. So now you can plug those values in to solve for y. So when I plug in negative 4, I get the point negative 4, negative 1. So then I plot that. 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1. Remember that parabolas are symmetrical, so when you plug in negative 2 on the other side, you're also going to get negative 1. We can see that this parabola is headed up, but we don't know quite yet where it is going to cross the axis. So I'm going to keep plugging points in until I have a better idea of where this parabola is going to cross the x-axis. So now I'm going to take it and I'm going to plug in negative 5 or negative 1, either way. And in both cases I get 2. So negative 5, 2, and negative 1, 2. Now I've graphed plenty of points to see that I can connect them to make my parabola. You can look and say, okay, I know I have two solutions. They're right here. These are the points where I cross the x-axis. So I definitely have answers this time. The problem is that they don't cross at a place that I can actually identify. They cross in between numbers. That's the problem with graphing, is that it's not always going to be overly accurate. So in this case, when that happens, you say you have two solutions, but you tell me what they come between. So this first one down here is between negative 5 and negative 4. The other one is between negative 2 and negative 1. So those are your answers. Two solutions between negative 5, negative 4, and negative 2, negative 1, because we were unable to find the actual points that they crossed at because they were in between two places. Let's look at this one. Same first step. Find A, B, and C. A is 1, B is negative 1, C is 4. Negative B over 2A is what we start with, which in this case is negative negative 1 over 2 times 1, which is 1/2. So again, I'm plugging 1/2 in for x. Oh, I already did that one. Okay, just kidding. We'll do this one instead. A is 1, B is 4, C is 3. So negative B over 2A is a negative 4 over 2 times 1, which is negative 4 over 2, which gives me an x of negative 2. plug it in. So plug in -2 for x, solve for y, and I got -1 for y. So my vertex is at -2, -1, because I went up here and I said, okay, -2 squared plus 4 times -2 plus 3. You have to always plug it in. So -2, -1 is where I'm starting. I now know that I have to make my chart and find other points to help me find the solutions. -2 is going to be in the middle of my graph because that's where my vertex was, so that point I already graphed. So what comes before -2? Well, -3 comes before -2, so now I'm going to plug in -3. And we get 0. So -3, 0 is a point on my graph. What comes after -2? -1 does. You plug that in, you also get 0. Remember, the goal of these graphs is to find where the parabola crosses the x-axis, and we have accomplished that by looking at this graph. We see exactly where it crosses, so I can connect my points and I can now answer my question. This parabola has 2 solutions because it crosses the axis in 2 places, and those solutions we know exactly are -3, 0 and -1, 0. And we found those by graphing. You start with the vertex and then you move on from there, something above your vertex and something below it. That is what you're going to be doing on your assignment. You need to start by finding the vertex, and from there you find 2 points. Your next assignment is a book assignment, and it is on page 536. 2 of them. You need to do numbers 15 and number 25. You need to put in your own graphs. You need to find the vertex. You need to find points on either side of your vertex until you can answer the question confidently, where does the parabola cross the x-axis? It is a good idea to check your answers with the graphing calculator app Desmos, but I would like to see your actual assignment done being graphed by hand.